I watched through the glass as they put handcuffs on my firstborn son. His eyes, those same eyes I looked into the day he was born, were filled with something I'd never seen before. Not anger, not shame, something worse. Emptiness. Like I was looking at a stranger wearing my son's face. The detective was reading him his rights. Something about conspiracy to commit murder. My murder. And the words just hung there in that cold police station air, heavy and real, while my heart tried to convince itself this was all some kind of terrible mistake. But it wasn't a mistake. My own son had tried to kill me. If you've ever built something from nothing only to watch it tear your family apart, you're going to feel this one. Before we go any further, do me a favor, hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and drop a comment telling me what part of this world you're watching from. These stories, they connect us. They remind us we're not alone in our pain. My name is Edward James Morrison. I'm 73 years old now, but the story I'm about to tell you happened when I was 68. Back then, I was living in a big house in Alpharetta, Georgia, one of those neighborhoods where every lawn looks like it's been painted green and every house costs more than most folks make in a lifetime. But I didn't start there. Lord knows, I didn't start there. I grew up in a 2-bedroom apartment in Southwest Atlanta where the walls were so thin you could hear your neighbors' arguments like they were happening in your own living room. My daddy worked 3 jobs and still came up short most months. My mama cleaned houses for white families in Buckhead, coming home so tired she'd fall asleep at the dinner table. I learned something watching them. Poverty don't care how hard you work. It'll break your back and still ask for more. So I made myself a promise when I was 14 years old, standing in that cramped kitchen with roaches crawling up the walls. I was going to build something real, something that would make sure my children never knew what it felt like to be hungry, to be scared, to be small. It took me 32 years of 18-hour days, of eating ramen noodles while other men my age were taking vacations, of missing barbecues and birthday parties and Sunday dinners because I was chasing something bigger than comfort. I started with a small freight logistics company. Just me, a used truck, and a dream that most people called foolish. But I didn't build Morrison Logistics to prove people wrong. I built it to prove myself right. By the time I was 46, I had 17 trucks. By 50, I had 43 and contracts with 3 major retailers. By 55, I had warehouses in 4 states and 237 employees. I'd made it. But here's what they don't tell you about making it. Success changes people around you, but it don't always change you. I still woke up at 5 a.m., still remembered what it felt like to check my bank account and see double zeros, still kept a picture of that cramped apartment in my office to remind me where I came from. My wife, Patricia, she understood. Met her when I was 23 and still driving that beat-up truck myself. She was working at a diner on Piedmont Road, and Lord, she was beautiful. Not just pretty, beautiful in that way that comes from the inside. Had these eyes that saw right through all my big talk to the scared boy underneath. You're gonna make it, she told me on our 3rd date, sitting in my truck outside her apartment. I don't know how I know, but I know. She was right. We got married 6 months later in a small church in East Point. Had our first son, Joseph, we called him Joe, when I was 25. Second son, Marcus, came 2 years later, and that's where this story really begins. With my boys. Joe came into this world fighting, 3 weeks early, screaming like the whole hospital was trying to do him wrong. The nurses said they'd never seen a baby with that much fire. Patricia laughed and said, "That's your son right there, Edward. Got your stubbornness." She wasn't wrong. Marcus was different, quiet, watchful. When he was a baby, he'd just stare at you with these serious eyes, like he was trying to figure you out. The nurses said he was easy. Patricia said he was thoughtful. I loved them both from the moment I laid eyes on them. Loved them in that way that makes your chest hurt. That way that makes you understand why people do crazy things to protect their children. I wanted to give them everything, but I also wanted to give them something more important than money. I wanted to give them purpose. When the boys turned 12, both of them within that same year, I called them into my office at home. It was a Saturday afternoon in March. I remember because it was unseasonably warm and the windows were open, letting in that smell of fresh-cut grass and new beginnings. Joe walked in first, all swagger and smiles. He was always like that, confident, maybe too confident, thought the world owed him something just for showing up. Marcus came in behind him, quieter, taking in everything with those watchful eyes. "Sit down, boys," I said. They sat in the leather chairs across from my desk. Same chairs where I'd made million-dollar decisions. Same desk where I'd signed contracts that changed our lives. "You know what this company means to me?" I asked them. "Yes, sir," they said together. "No," I shook my head. "Not yet, but you will." I stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the pool in the backyard, at the manicured lawn, at all the evidence of what hard work could build. "This company," I said, "is more than money. It's proof that a black man from Southwest Atlanta can build something that matters. It's proof that we don't have to accept whatever crumbs fall from someone else's table. We can build our own table." I turned back to them. "And one day, this will all be yours." Joe's eyes lit up. I could see him already spending money he hadn't earned yet. Marcus just nodded slowly, still processing. "But," I held up a finger, "you need to understand something. Money without character is just paper. Success without integrity is just noise. If you're going to inherit this company, you need to be worthy of it." "What does that mean, Dad?" Marcus asked. "It means you work hard. It means you treat people right. It means when you give your word is gold. It means you don't take shortcuts, you don't lie, you don't cheat, because the moment you do, you've already lost everything that matters." I sat back down and looked at both of them hard. "I'm going to be straight with you about something else. Joe, you're the oldest. According to tradition, that means something. When the time is right, when I'm ready to step down, I'll give you majority ownership. You'll be the CEO. Marcus, you'll be his partner, his right hand. You'll own a significant share, but Joe will have final say." I saw something flash across Marcus's face. Not anger, not resentment, just acceptance. Like he'd already known this was how it would be. Joe leaned back in his chair, that cocky smile spreading across his face. "I won't let you down, Dad." "I hope not, son, because this isn't just about you. This is about every person who works for us, every family that depends on Morrison Logistics for their paycheck, every client who trusts us with their business. You'll be responsible for all of that." "I can handle it," Joe said. "Can you?" I looked at him hard. "Because handling it means sacrifice. It means putting other people before yourself. It means being the kind of man people want to follow, not the kind they have to follow." "Yes, sir," Joe said, but I could tell he wasn't really hearing me. He was already somewhere else in his head, already imagining himself as CEO, already counting money that didn't exist yet. Marcus was listening to every word. "You both understand what I'm saying?" I asked. "Yes, sir," they said together, but only one of them meant it. That meeting changed everything. I thought I was giving them something to work toward, thought I was motivating them, thought I was being a good father by laying out their future clearly. I didn't realize I was planting a seed that would eventually poison my whole family. The years after that meeting were like watching two trees grow from the same soil, but reaching for different kinds of light. Marcus threw himself into learning the business, started working part-time at one of our warehouses when he was 16, doing inventory and learning how things worked from the ground up. He'd come home with grease on his clothes and questions in his eyes. "Dad, why do we use this shipping route instead of this one? Dad, how do you negotiate with new clients? Dad, what made you decide to expand into Tennessee?" Every question was genuine. Every interest was real. He wanted to understand not just how to run the company, but why it mattered. Joe took that promise and turned it into a permission slip. Started small, coming home past curfew, skipping classes at the private school we'd worked so hard to get them into. Nothing major at first, just entitled behavior, like rules were for other people. "Joe," I'd say, "you can't just do whatever you want." "Why not?" he'd shoot back. "It's not like it matters. I'm going to be running a multi-million-dollar company anyway." "That's exactly why it matters," I'd tell him. "People who lead have to be disciplined." But he didn't want to hear it. And maybe I didn't push hard enough. Maybe I told myself it was just teenage rebellion. Maybe I made excuses because he was my son and I loved him. Maybe that was my first mistake. Patricia saw it clearer than I did. "Edward," she said one night after Joe had come home at 2 a.m., reeking of alcohol, "you need to do something. He's just going through a phase. This isn't a phase. This is who he's becoming. And that meeting you had with them when they were 12, that's when it started. You told him he was going to inherit everything, and he heard nothing I do matters. That's not what I said, but that's what he heard." She sat down on our bed, looking tired. "And every day you don't correct it, you're confirming it." She was right. God, she was right. But I didn't know how to fix it without breaking my promise, without making Joe think I didn't believe in him. So I did nothing, and nothing grew into something I couldn't control. By the time Joe turned 21, I'd lost count of how many times I'd had to make phone calls to smooth things over. The DUI when he was 19. First offense, got it reduced to reckless driving. Cost me $15,000 in lawyer fees and a few favors I'd been saving for something important. The bar fight in Midtown Atlanta when he was 20. Assault charges that disappeared after I wrote a check to the other guy and another one to make sure it stayed out of the papers. The incident at the country club where he'd gotten drunk and called one of my biggest clients an aging has-been to his face. That one cost me a $2 million contract. Each time, Patricia would look at me with those eyes that said everything her mouth didn't. Each time I'd tell myself this was the last time. Each time, I was lying. It was a Tuesday morning in June when I got the call that broke something inside me. I was in my office downtown going over quarterly reports when my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something told me I should. "Mr. Morrison?" A woman's voice, professional but strained. "Speaking. This is Officer Jennifer Walsh with the Atlanta Police Department. Your son Joseph is currently in custody at our Buckhead precinct." My heart dropped into my stomach. What happened? He was pulled over for erratic driving at approximately 2:30 a.m. Upon investigation, officers found cocaine in his vehicle. He's being charged with DUI and possession with intent to distribute. The room started spinning. Intent to distribute. That wasn't a slap on the wrist. That wasn't something that disappeared with a phone call and a check. "I'll be right there," I managed to say. I called Patricia on the way. She didn't say anything for a long time after I told her. Just breathed into the phone, each exhale like a small defeat. "I'll call Stephen," she finally said. Stephen was our lawyer. Good man. Expensive man. The kind of lawyer who could make problems disappear, but even he had limits. "Patricia, just go get our son, Edward." Joe was sitting in a holding cell when I got there, looking smaller than I'd ever seen him. 21 years old and still acting like a child. Still thinking consequences were for other people. When they brought him out to see me, he had the audacity to smile. Not a happy smile, a relieved one, like he'd known all along that Daddy would come fix it. "This is bad, Joe," I said, keeping my voice low. "I know, but no." I cut him off. "You don't know. You have no idea how bad this is. Intent to distribute? Do you understand what that means?" "Dad, it wasn't mine." "Stop." I closed my eyes, trying to hold back everything I wanted to scream. "Just stop. I don't want to hear another excuse. I don't want to hear another lie. I'm tired, Joe. I'm so goddamn tired." Something flickered across his face. Surprise, maybe. I never cursed, never raised my voice. But right then, in that police station with my son in handcuffs, I couldn't hold it in anymore. "Do you know what I was doing when I was your age?" I asked him. "I was working 2 jobs, saving every penny, building something. And you're throwing away everything I worked for like it's garbage." "I didn't ask you to build anything for me." "You're right. You didn't ask. I did it anyway, because that's what fathers do. We sacrifice so our children can have better. But you know what? I'm starting to wonder if I did you a favor or cursed you." He looked away. I leaned closer to the glass between us. "I'm going to get you out of this. I'm going to call Stephen, and he's going to do whatever he can do. But Joe, this is it. No more. You hear me? No more." "Yes, sir," he mumbled, but I could see it in his eyes. He didn't believe me. Didn't believe there would ever be consequences he couldn't escape. And maybe that was my fault. Stephen managed to get the intent to distribute charge dropped. Turned out the amount was just under the threshold, and the prosecution couldn't prove it wasn't for personal use. It cost me $45,000 in legal fees and another 20 in making things right with various people. The DUI stuck, though. Third offense, license suspended for a year, mandatory counseling, probation. He got lucky, Stephen told me in his office afterwards. But Edward, you need to understand something. Next time, and statistically, there will be a next time, I might not be able to help. There won't be a next time. Stephen gave me a look that said he'd heard that before. Marcus graduated from Georgia Tech that same month with a degree in business management and a 3.8 GPA. I watched him walk across that stage and I felt pride so sharp it hurt. This was the son who'd taken the example I tried to set and actually followed it. The son who understood that success was earned, not inherited. After the ceremony, we went to dinner at a nice restaurant in Midtown. Just the four of us, me, Patricia, Marcus, and Joe, tried to make it a family celebration. "Congratulations, little brother," Joe said, raising his glass of water. His license was suspended, so he wasn't drinking. Wasn't supposed to be drinking anyway. "Thanks," Marcus said, but there was something careful in his voice, like he was navigating a minefield. "So what's next?" I asked Marcus. "You gonna come work at Morrison?" "If you'll have me," Marcus said. "I'd like to start in operations at Ross, really understand how everything works before I move into management." Joe snorted. "That's such a Marcus thing to say. Always gotta do everything the hard way." "There's nothing hard about wanting to learn," Marcus replied evenly. "Boys," Patricia said softly, warning in her voice. But Joe wasn't done. "I'm just saying, we already know you're going to end up running half the company. Why waste time pushing boxes around a warehouse?" "Because that's how you understand what the people working for you actually do," Marcus said. "And if you don't understand that, you're not fit to lead them." The table went quiet. Joe stared at Marcus, and I saw something dangerous flash in his eyes. "You think you're better than me. I don't think anything. I'm just trying to be prepared for when." "For when what? When Dad gives you my company?" "It's not your company," Marcus said, and his voice was still calm, but now there was steel in it. "It's Dad's company, and he'll give it to whoever he thinks can handle it." Joe stood up so fast his chair scraped across the floor. "Screw this. I'm out of here." He stormed out of the restaurant, leaving the three of us sitting there in the wreckage of what was supposed to be a celebration. Patricia reached across the table and squeezed Marcus's hand. "I'm proud of you, baby." Marcus nodded, but I could see the sadness in his eyes. See him wondering if success was worth losing his brother. I was wondering the same thing. The next 3 years were a war I didn't know how to fight. Joe spiraled. That's the only word for it. More arrests, public intoxication, disturbing the peace, another DUI, more phone calls, more lawyers, more money thrown at problems that money couldn't actually fix. He moved out of our house and into a penthouse in Buckhead that I was paying for. Started hanging around with people who saw him as a walking ATM. Dated women who disappeared the moment his credit card was declined. I'd see him sometimes, driving around in the BMW I'd bought him, music blasting, surrounded by people who didn't give a damn about him. And each time, my heart broke a little more. Patricia stopped asking about him after a while. Just lived with this quiet sadness that filled our house like smoke. Marcus, meanwhile, was everything I'd hoped for. He started in the warehouse like he said he would. Worked there for 6 months, learning every aspect of inventory management and shipping logistics, then moved to sales, then to operations management, then to strategic planning. Every step he earned, every promotion people respected, not because he was the boss's son, but because he was good at his job. "He reminds me of you," my COO told me one day. "Got that same fire, that same integrity." "He's better than me," I said, and meant it. By the time Marcus turned 25, he was effectively running half the company, making decisions I trusted, building relationships with clients who called him by name. He'd found a good woman too, Angela, a lawyer he'd met at a charity event. Smart, beautiful, grounded. Everything was falling into place. Except for Joe. I turned 68 on a cold November morning. Patricia made my favorite breakfast, cheese grits, scrambled eggs, turkey sausage. We sat at the kitchen table in that big house that suddenly felt too empty, and I realized something that took my breath away. I was tired. Not just physically tired. though Lord knows running a company for 23 years will wear you down. I was soul tired, tired of making decisions that affected hundreds of people's lives, tired of carrying the weight of everything I'd built, tired of worrying about Joe. "What are you thinking about?" Patricia asked, watching me over her coffee cup. "Retiring," I said. She set her cup down slowly. "Really?" "Really, I'm almost 70, baby. Maybe it's time to let go, let Marcus take over." And Joe, there it was, the question that had been poisoning our lives for years. "I don't know," I admitted. "I promised him." "You promised him the company if he earned it," Patricia interrupted. "Has he earned it?" We both knew the answer to that. I spent the next 2 weeks talking to lawyers, accountants, and my board of directors, working out how a transition would look, how to structure ownership, how to protect the company I'd spent my life building. Every scenario led back to the same conclusion. Joe couldn't be the majority owner, couldn't be CEO, maybe couldn't be involved at all. It wasn't anger that led me there. It was math. Cold, hard numbers that showed what would happen if someone unstable took control. How many jobs would be lost? How many families would suffer? How many years of work would crumble? I couldn't let that happen. But I also couldn't shake the memory of 12-year-old Joe sitting in my office, eyes bright with hope, believing in the promise I'd made him. I called both boys to the house on a Friday afternoon in December. Marcus came straight from the office, still wearing his suit, looking professional and capable. Joe showed up an hour late, wearing designer sweatpants and a shirt that probably cost more than most people's rent. I could smell the whiskey on him from across the room. "What's this about, Dad?" Joe asked, sprawling on the couch like he didn't have a care in the world. "Sit up," I said. Something in my voice made him obey. "I'm retiring," I told them. Marcus's eyes widened. "When?" "Soon. Next few months. I've been doing this for over 2 decades, and it's time. I've built something I'm proud of, and now it's time to pass it on." "To us," Joe said, and I heard the assumption in his voice. Heard him already counting his inheritance. "Yes," I said. "To both of you. I've scheduled a meeting with the board of directors for next Friday. We're going to sign the necessary papers to transfer ownership and management." Joe smiled. That cocky, entitled smile that used to make me sad and now just made me angry. "But," I held up my hand, "there are conditions." Marcus leaned forward. Joe's smile faded. "I love you both," I said, and my voice cracked slightly. "You're my sons, but love doesn't mean being blind, and I can't give you something you're not ready for just because of a promise I made when you were 12 years old." "Dad," Joe started. "Let me finish." I took a deep breath. "Marcus, you're going to be the CEO. You'll have 55% ownership. You've earned it. You've proven yourself 1,000 times over." Marcus didn't smile, didn't gloat, just nodded seriously, understanding the weight of what I was giving him. "Joe," I turned to my older son, "you'll own 45%. You'll be on the board. You'll have significant influence. But Marcus will have final say on major decisions." The room went silent. Then Joe stood up. "You promised me," he said, and his voice was shaking. "When I was 12 years old, you sat me in your office and promised me that company. You said because I was the oldest, I would be the CEO. You gave me your word." "I did," I said, "and I'm breaking that promise because you've proven to me over and over that you're not ready." "Not ready?" His laugh was bitter, ugly. "I'm not ready? Or is it that your golden boy Marcus is just so perfect that you'd rather give my birthright to him?" "This isn't about perfection," I said, standing up to face him. "This is about responsibility, about trust, about knowing that the person in charge won't destroy everything I've built. So this is punishment for my mistakes?" "This is consequences, Joe, something you've managed to avoid your whole life. Because of you," he shouted, and suddenly all that cocky confidence was gone, replaced by something rawer. "You fixed everything. Every time I messed up, Daddy wrote a check and made it go away. And now you want to act like I'm the problem?" "He wasn't wrong. God help me. He wasn't wrong." "You're right," I said quietly. "I enabled you. I protected you from consequences because I loved you. And maybe that was wrong. Maybe I should have let you fail earlier, let you learn the hard way. But I can't undo those mistakes. All I can do is make the right decision now. And the right decision is giving control to someone who's earned it." Joe looked at Marcus, and the hatred in his eyes made my stomach turn. "You happy now?" He asked his brother, "You finally get to be the favorite?" "Joe," Marcus started, but Joe cut him off. "Shut up. Just shut up with your humble, hard-working act. We all know you've been angling for this, probably been in Dad's ear for years, talking about how irresponsible I am, how unfit I am." "That's not true," Marcus said, and he sounded hurt. I said shut up." "Joe," I put myself between them. "That's enough. This is my decision, not Marcus's, mine, and it's final." "Final," Joe repeated, and something in his face shifted, became cold, became something I didn't recognize. "Yeah, we'll see about that." He walked toward the door, and I felt panic rising in my chest. "Joe, wait." He didn't wait, didn't turn around, just left, slamming the door so hard a picture fell off the wall. The house was silent except for the sound of Patricia crying softly in the kitchen, where she'd been listening to everything. "He'll come around," Marcus said, but he didn't sound convinced. "Yeah," I said. But I knew better. I knew my son, knew that entitled, desperate look in his eyes. I just didn't know how far he'd go. The week leading up to the Friday meeting was the longest of my life. I tried calling Joe 27 times. Every call went to voicemail. Every text went unanswered. It was like he disappeared off the face of the earth. "Maybe that's for the best," Patricia said, but I could hear the fear underneath her words. A mother's fear when she knows her child is hurting and she can't reach him. Marcus tried too. Left messages saying he didn't want to steal anything from him, that there was room for both of them in the company, that family mattered more than business. Joe never responded to him either. The Friday meeting was scheduled for 2 p.m. at the Morrison Logistics headquarters downtown. All 9 board members would be there. Our lawyers, our accountants. Everything was prepared, the contracts printed, the ownership transfers ready to sign. I woke up that morning feeling lighter than I had in years. This was it, the end of one chapter and the beginning of another. I'd fought for 23 years to build something that mattered, and now I was handing it to someone who would protect it. Patricia made me breakfast again, our Friday tradition. We ate slowly, savoring it. "How do you feel?" she asked. "Good," I said, and meant it. "Scared, excited, old." She laughed. "You're not old. You're seasoned." "Is that what we're calling it now?" "It's what I'm calling it." She reached across the table and took my hand. "Edward, you did good. Whatever happens with Joe, whatever pain comes from this, you did the right thing." "I hope so." "I know so." Marcus picked me up at 11 a.m. We were going to have lunch before the meeting, go over everything one last time, make sure he was ready for what was coming. We went to a small soul food place in Castleberry Hill. Nothing fancy, just good food and honest people. The kind of place I preferred over all the expensive restaurants where everyone was trying to impress everyone else. "You ready for this?" I asked him over fried chicken and collard greens. "I think so," Marcus said. "Scared as hell, but ready." "Good. You should be scared. The moment you stop being scared of the responsibility is the moment you stop taking it seriously." He nodded, processing that. "Marcus," I said, "I need you to know something. This decision, it wasn't easy, and it's going to cause problems with your brother. Probably already has, but it was the right decision." "I know, Dad. Do you?" I looked at him hard. "Because it's going to get worse before it gets better. Joe isn't going to just accept this and move on. He's going to fight it. And when he does, you can't back down, can't feel guilty, can't give in just to keep the peace." "I won't," Marcus said, but I could see the worry in his eyes, see him already grieving the relationship with his brother that this might destroy. "The company comes first," I told him. "Not because money matters more than family, but because hundreds of families depend on this company, their mortgages, their children's education, their futures. You'll be responsible for all of them. That's bigger than Joe's hurt feelings. Bigger than me. Bigger than all of us. I understand." "I hope so, son. I really hope so." We finished lunch around 12:30 and headed to the office. I should have felt good, should have felt ready, but something was nagging at me. Some instinct that had kept me alive in business for 2 decades was whispering that something wasn't right. I ignored it. Big mistake. By 1:45, all 9 board members were assembled in the conference room. Margaret Chen, my CFO, David Washington, our COO, Sarah Martinez, head of operations. All good people, all people I trusted. Our lawyer, Stephen, had all the documents laid out. Everything was ready. 2 p.m. came. I wasn't there. I woke up at 4:30 p.m. my bed at home, head pounding like someone had taken a sledgehammer to it. Patricia was sitting in a chair next to the bed, and when she saw me stir, relief flooded her face. Edward. Oh, thank God. What? My mouth was dry, my tongue thick. What happened? You fell asleep right after lunch, just collapsed. We couldn't wake you up. What? Nothing made sense. I'd felt fine at lunch, completely fine. I don't understand. The doctor said it looked like you'd been drugged, something in your system that knocked you out cold. Drugged. The word hit me like ice water. The meeting, I said, trying to sit up. The room spun. The board meeting. They waited for an hour, couldn't proceed without you and your signature. They rescheduled for next Friday. Who would? But even as I asked, I knew. Joe, Maria, our housekeeper, came into the room looking guilty and scared. Mr. Morrison, she said softly, I need to tell you something. Patricia looked at her sharply. Joe came by this morning, Maria said, and her hands were shaking. Before you got home, he asked me to put something in your afternoon tea. Said it was vitamins. Said you'd been stressed and he wanted to help. Maria, I started. I didn't know, she said, and tears started rolling down her face. I swear to God, I didn't know it was anything bad. He's your son. I thought he was trying to help. How much did he pay you? Patricia asked, her voice hard. Maria looked at the floor. $5,000. $5,000 to drug his own father. I felt something break inside me, something I didn't know could break. It's okay, Maria, I said, though nothing was okay. You didn't know. I'm so sorry. It's okay, really. But it wasn't okay. Nothing would ever be okay again. The police came that night. I didn't want to call them, didn't want to believe my son had done this, but Patricia insisted, and she was right. He drugged you, Edward, she said, her voice breaking. Your own son drugged you to stop a business meeting. What's next? What else is he capable of? I didn't want to answer that question. Officer David Chin took our state and looked sympathetic but professional. We can charge him with battery and conspiracy. But Mr. Morrison, I need to be honest with you. With a good lawyer, he'll probably get probation, maybe rehab. That's it? Patricia asked. He poisons his father and gets probation? He didn't poison you, the officer corrected gently. He administered a sedative without your consent. Different charge, different penalty. I don't want to press charges, I said. Edward, Patricia started. He's my son. I'm not sending him to jail. He tried to sabotage you. And it didn't work. The meeting's rescheduled. We move forward. That's it. But I knew it wasn't it. Knew Joe wouldn't stop. Knew he'd see this as a temporary setback, not a final defeat. I just didn't know how far he'd actually go. The next few days were quiet, too quiet. Joe didn't call, didn't text, didn't show up making excuses or begging forgiveness. Just silence. Marcus came by every day, checking on me, making sure I was okay. He'd taken over my responsibilities at work without complaint, keeping everything running smoothly while I recovered. You okay, Dad? He asked on Wednesday. Yeah, I lied. You don't have to protect him. He's my son? He's dangerous. I didn't argue with that. Couldn't. Maria quit on Thursday. I didn't blame her. Paid her 2 months severance and wrote her a good reference. Told her I understood, that it wasn't her fault. But inside, I felt the walls closing in. Felt like I was losing everything. My company, my son, the peace I'd worked so hard to build. Patricia hired a new housekeeper the next day. Catherine, older woman, came highly recommended, grandmother of 6. Seemed kind, competent. No one comes in this house without our permission, Patricia told her firmly. No visitors, no exceptions. Yes, ma'am, Catherine said. But what we didn't know, what we couldn't have known, was that Joe was already planning his next move. And this time, he wasn't trying to delay anything. He was trying to end it. I found out later that Joe had approached Catherine 3 days after she started. Met her in the parking lot of a grocery store. Knew her schedule, knew her route. I'm Edward Morrison's son, he told her. Showed her his ID to prove it. I need your help. With what? Catherine had asked, suspicious but curious. My father, Joe said, and according to what she told police later, his voice was sad. Convincing. He's dying. Cancer. Won't tell anyone because he doesn't want people to pity him. But he's in pain. Terrible pain. And he won't take his medicine because he's too proud. That's terrible, Catherine said. I know. That's why I need you to help me. I have his pain medication. Doctor prescribed it, but Dad won't take it if he knows what it is. So I need you to mix it into his morning tea. Just a little bit. Enough to help him. He showed her a bottle. Professional looking. Labels and everything. Except it wasn't pain medication. It was digitoxin. Enough to stop an old man's heart. I don't know, Catherine said. That seems... I'll pay you $50,000, Joe said. $50,000 to kill his father. Catherine took the bottle. She didn't use it right away, though. Something about the whole thing felt wrong to her. The amount of money, the secrecy, the way Joe's eyes looked when he talked about his father, not sad but cold. So she did something smart. She did nothing. Just kept the bottle in her purse and waited. And on Friday, the second Friday, the day of the rescheduled meeting, she decided she couldn't go through with it. Instead, she came to me. I was in my office at home, getting ready for the 2 p.m. meeting. Patricia was helping me with my tie, a nervous habit from 40 years of marriage. Catherine knocked on the door. Mr. Morrison, I need to speak with you, privately. Something in her voice made Patricia step back. It's okay, I told my wife. Give us a minute. Patricia left, closing the door behind her. Catherine pulled the bottle out of her purse and set it on my desk. Your son Joe gave this to me, she said. Told me it was pain medication. Told me to put it in your tea this morning. Offered me $50,000. The room went cold. I didn't do it, Catherine continued, and her voice was shaking. I took the money. I'm sorry, I took the money, but I couldn't do it. I looked up what was in this bottle. It's digitoxin, Mr. Morrison. It's poison. He was trying to kill you. I picked up the bottle with numb fingers. Read the label. Digitoxin, heart medication that, in the right dose, was helpful. In the wrong dose, the dose that was in this bottle, was lethal. My son wanted me dead. Not just gone. Not just out of the way. Dead. Where's the money he gave you? I asked. In my car. All of it. I'll give it back. No. I set the bottle down carefully. Keep it. You probably saved my life. I'm so sorry. Don't be. You did the right thing. I pulled out my phone. But now I need you to do something else. I need you to tell this exact story to the police. Catherine nodded, tears running down her face. I called Officer Chen. Then I called Patricia. Then I called Marcus. Then I sat in my office and cried for the son I'd lost. The son who'd apparently been gone for years, and I'd just been too blind to see it. The police moved fast, set up a sting operation. Had Catherine text Joe that she'd done it, that I'd drunk my morning tea and seemed sleepy. Joe texted back, "Good. Let me know when it's over." When it's over. When his father was dead, they arrested him at his apartment an hour later. Conspiracy to commit murder, attempted murder, a half-dozen other charges I couldn't even process. And at 2 p.m., while the board meeting was happening without me again, while Marcus was signing papers that would make him CEO of Morrison Logistics, I was sitting in a police station watching through one-way glass as they questioned my son. "Why did you do it?" Officer Chen asked him. Joe just smiled, that same cocky smile I'd seen 1,000 times. "He promised me that company," Joe said. "It was mine, my birthright, and he tried to steal it, give it to his favorite son. So I took it back the only way I could. By killing him? By doing what needed to be done." There was no remorse in his voice, no sadness, no recognition that he tried to murder his own father. Just entitlement. Just anger that the world hadn't given him what he thought he deserved. And I realized something sitting there in that cold police station. I'd lost my son years ago. I just hadn't wanted to admit it. They set Joe's bail at $2 million. I could have paid it. Had the money sitting in accounts that wouldn't even miss it. Patricia begged me not to. "He tried to kill you, Edward. Kill you. And you want to bring him home? He's my son." He stopped being your son the moment he put poison in a bottle with your name on it. I wanted to argue, wanted to defend him, but every time I opened my mouth, I saw Joe's face on that police video. Saw him smiling when he said doing what needed to be done. So I left him in jail. And that decision haunted me every single night. Marcus took over as CEO of Morrison Logistics on that Friday in December, signing papers in a conference room while his father sat in a police station and his brother sat in a cell. The board was sympathetic but firm. "Business can't stop because of family tragedy," Margaret Chen told me when she called. Marcus handled it beautifully, very professional, very composed. "Good," I said, but the word tasted like ash. I'd wanted this. Wanted Marcus in charge. Wanted the company in capable hands. I just never imagined it would cost me my firstborn son. The preliminary hearing was set for January 15th. Stephen, my lawyer, met with me at the house a week before, laid out Joe's options in that calm, clinical way lawyers do when they're talking about someone's life falling apart. The evidence is overwhelming, Stephen said. We have Catherine's testimony, the text messages, the bottle with his fingerprints, bank records showing he withdrew $50,000 in cash. The prosecution is offering a deal, 15 years with possibility of parole in 10. 15 years, I repeated. Joe would be 41 when he got out, middle-aged, life half over. It's better than what he'd get at trial. Attempted murder of a parent? The jury won't be sympathetic. He could get 25 to life. What does he say? I asked. About the deal? Stephen looked uncomfortable. He wants to go to trial, says he's innocent, says Catherine is lying, that you and Marcus set him up to steal his inheritance. The room started spinning. He thinks we set him up? Edward, Stephen said gently, your son isn't thinking clearly. He's created a narrative in his head where he's the victim, where everything that's happened to him is someone else's fault. It's a defense mechanism. It's insanity. Maybe, but it's what he believes. I went to see Joe 2 days before the hearing. The Fulton County Jail was everything you'd imagine. Cold concrete, harsh fluorescent lights, the smell of industrial cleaner trying to mask something darker underneath. They brought him out in an orange jumpsuit, hands cuffed, looking thinner than I'd ever seen him. We sat across from each other at a metal table with a guard watching from the corner. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. You came, Joe finally said. I'm your father. Of course I came. Are you? His laugh was bitter, because fathers don't abandon their sons. I didn't abandon you, Joe. You tried to kill me. I didn't. He leaned forward, eyes intense. I didn't, Dad. Catherine is lying. Marcus probably paid her to say that. He wanted me out of the way, and now he's got what he wanted. Joe, they have evidence. Your fingerprints on the bottle, your text messages. Planted. All of it. Can't you see? Marcus has been plotting this for years, poisoning you against me, making me look bad so he could take everything. I stared at my son and realized I was looking at a stranger. Do you actually believe that? I asked quietly. It's the truth. No, son. The truth is you made choices, bad choices, and those choices have consequences. That's the truth. Consequences? His voice rose. You want to talk about consequences? You promised me that company when I was 12 years old. You made me believe it was mine, and then you decided to give it to Marcus instead. What about the consequences of that? You're right, I said, and saw surprise flicker across his face. I did promise you, and I shouldn't have. Not unconditionally, not without requiring you to earn it. That was my mistake. So this is your fault. But Joe, I continued, my mistake doesn't excuse what you did. Doesn't justify attempted murder. You could have walked away, could have started your own business, could have done anything except try to kill your father. I didn't. Stop. I slammed my hand on the table. The guard shifted. Just stop lying. The evidence is there. The truth is there, and the only person who doesn't see it is you. Joe's jaw clenched. Then why are you here? Because I love you. Because despite everything, despite the lies, the drugs, the poison, all of it, you're still my son. And I need you to hear this. Take the deal. Plead guilty. Do your time. And maybe, there's a chance at redemption. Redemption? He laughed. You want me to go to prison for 15 years for something I didn't do? I want you to take responsibility for what you did do. I want you to stop blaming everyone else. I want you to become the man I always hoped you'd be. That man doesn't exist, Dad. He never did. He was just your fantasy, your project. And now that the project failed, you want to throw me away. I'm not throwing you away. Yes, you are. He stood up. Guard, I'm done here. Joe, wait. But he didn't wait. Just walked away, orange jumpsuit disappearing through the door, leaving me sitting at that metal table with my heart in pieces. The preliminary hearing was a formality. Judge Martha Rodriguez listened to the prosecution's evidence for 3 hours, watched the video of Joe's police interview, read Catherine's testimony, examined the bottle, the bank records, the text messages. Then she looked at Joe and said, Mr. Morrison, I'm binding you over for trial. Given the severity of these charges and your prior criminal record, bail is denied. Joe exploded, started screaming about injustice, about conspiracies, about corruption, had to be restrained by 3 bailiffs while his public defender tried to calm him down. I watched it all from the gallery, Patricia gripping my hand so hard I lost feeling in my fingers. "This isn't my son," she whispered. "This isn't the baby I raised." But it was. This was exactly who Joe had become. We just hadn't wanted to see it. The trial started on March 3rd. I didn't want to attend, but the prosecution said my presence might help. Show the jury that this wasn't just about business or money. It was about a father almost murdered by his own son. So I sat in that courtroom every day for 2 weeks, watching lawyers argue about my life like it was an academic exercise. The prosecution was methodical, built their case brick by brick. Catherine testified first, calm, clear, credible, told the jury about Joe approaching her, about the $50,000, about the bottle of digitoxin. Joe's lawyer tried to tear her apart on cross-examination, suggested she was lying for money, suggested Marcus had paid her to frame Joe. "How much is Marcus Morrison paying you to testify?" the defense attorney asked. "Nothing," Catherine said firmly. "I'm testifying because it's the truth, because Mr. Morrison deserves justice." The toxicology expert testified next, explained what digitoxin does to the human body, how the amount in that bottle was easily 10 times the lethal dose, how someone who ingested it would go into cardiac arrest within hours. "In your expert opinion," the prosecutor asked, "if Mr. Edward Morrison had consumed the contents of this bottle, would he have survived?" "No," the expert said, "not without immediate medical intervention, and even then unlikely." Joe sat at the defense table, expressionless, like they were talking about someone else. The text messages were entered into evidence, projected on a screen for the whole courtroom to see. "Did you do it?" "Yes. Put it in his tea this morning." "Good. Let me know when it's over." "I'm scared." "Don't be. Just stick to the plan. You'll get the rest of the money after." The jury read those words, read them over and over, and I watched their faces harden. The defense's case was weak. They tried to argue entrapment, claimed Catherine had approached Joe, not the other way around, claimed she'd manufactured the whole thing to extort money from our family, but they had no evidence, no recordings, no witnesses, nothing. Joe's lawyer put him on the stand against everyone's advice. Big mistake. "Mr. Morrison," the prosecutor said during cross-examination, "do you love your father?" "Of course," Joe said. "Yet you texted, 'Let me know when it's over,' after Miss Catherine told you she'd poisoned him." "What did you mean by that?" "I meant when he felt better. She told me it was pain medication." "Pain medication." The prosecutor picked up the bottle. "This bottle that was prescribed by no doctor, that came from no pharmacy, that you withdrew $50,000 in cash to pay for." "She lied to me." "The same way you lied to Maria Lopez about putting sleeping pills in your father's tea to delay the first board meeting." Joe's lawyer objected. The judge sustained it, but the damage was done. The jury had seen it, the pattern, the escalation. First, delay the meeting. When that didn't work, kill the father. The prosecutor's closing argument was devastating. "Ladies and gentlemen," she said, "this case is about a man who believed he deserved something he hadn't earned, who believed a promise made to a 12-year-old boy entitled him to millions of dollars and hundreds of people's livelihoods. And when reality didn't match his expectations, when his father made the responsible choice to protect his company and his employees, Joseph Morrison decided to commit the ultimate betrayal. He didn't just want to take his father's company. He wanted to take his father's life. The evidence is clear. The intent is clear. And your duty is clear. Find him guilty, because that's exactly what he is." The jury deliberated for 4 hours, came back with their verdict at 6:47 p.m. on March 17th. On the count of conspiracy to commit murder, we find the defendant guilty. On the count of attempted murder in the first degree, we find the defendant guilty. On the count of solicitation to commit murder, we find the defendant guilty. Joe didn't react, just sat there staring straight ahead. Patricia buried her face in my shoulder and sobbed. Marcus, sitting on my other side, reached over and squeezed my hand, and I felt nothing. Just a vast, empty nothing where my firstborn son used to live in my heart. Sentencing was 3 weeks later. Judge Rodriguez looked at Joe with something like pity in her eyes. "Mr. Morrison," she said, I've presided over many cases in my 20 years on the bench, but rarely have I seen someone throw away so much potential for so little reason. You were born into privilege, given every advantage. Your father built an empire so you wouldn't have to struggle the way he did, and you repaid him by trying to murder him. Not in a moment of passion, not in self-defense, but coldly, calculatingly, for money you didn't need and power you hadn't earned. The prosecution recommended 20 years. Your attorney asked for mercy. And I've thought long and hard about what justice looks like in this case. She paused, looking at some papers in front of her. Joseph Morrison, I hereby sentence you to 25 years in the Georgia Department of Corrections with the possibility of parole after serving 20 years. You'll be eligible for early release programs after 15 years, contingent on good behavior and completion of rehabilitation programs. I hope you use this time to reflect, to change, to become the man your father believed you could be. This court is adjourned. 25 years. Joe would be 51 when he got out. I'd be 93, if I was even still alive. As they led him away in handcuffs, he looked back at me one last time, and for just a second I saw it, a flicker of something in his eyes, regret maybe, or realization, or just fear of what was coming. But then it was gone, and so was he. The months after the trial were strange. The media had picked up the story. Millionaire's son tries to murder father for inheritance. It was on the news, in the papers, all over social media. People I hadn't talked to in years reached out with sympathy I didn't want. Business associates asked if I was okay. Random strangers sent letters saying they understood they'd been betrayed by family too. They knew how it felt. But they didn't know. Because nobody knows what it feels like until it happens to them. Marcus thrived as CEO. Within 6 months, he'd increased our client base by 15%, streamlined operations, improved employee satisfaction scores, everything I'd hoped for and more. He got married to Angela in June, beautiful ceremony at a vineyard in Napa Valley. Patricia cried through the whole thing, happy tears this time, not the broken tears I'd gotten used to. I walked him down the aisle. His choice said he wanted both parents up there with him. And when I hugged him before he said his vows, he whispered, "Thank you for believing in me, Dad." "Thank you for being worth believing in," I whispered back. Joe's name wasn't mentioned all day, but his absence was a weight we all carried. I officially retired in September, threw myself a small party at the office, just the executive team and a few key employees, no press, no fanfare. 31 years, I said in my speech, I've given to this company 31 years of early mornings and late nights, of risks and rewards, of building something I'm proud of. But the thing I'm most proud of, it's not the money, it's not the success, it's the people. Every single person in this room chose to be part of this journey, chose to work hard, chose to believe in something bigger than themselves. And now I'm leaving this company in the hands of someone who embodies everything Morrison Logistics stands for, my son Marcus. I looked at him standing there in his suit, confident and capable, and felt something shift in my chest. Pride, pure, uncomplicated pride. Take care of them, I told him. Take care of the company. Take care of our legacy. I will, Dad, I promise. And unlike Joe's promises, I knew Marcus meant it. Patricia and I traveled for a while. Went to Italy, something we talked about for 20 years but never had time for. Walked through Rome, ate pasta in small trattorias in Tuscany, stood in the Sistine Chapel and felt small and grateful and old. "We should have done this years ago," Patricia said one night, sitting on a balcony in Florence with wine and cheese and the sunset painting everything gold. "We were busy building something," I said. "Was it worth it?" The question hung there between us. "I don't know anymore," I admitted. "I wanted to give my boys everything, wanted them to have security, freedom, opportunity. But Joe made his own choices," Patricia said firmly. "You can't blame yourself for that. Can't promise him something I shouldn't have, created an expectation I couldn't fulfill. Maybe if I'd handled it differently. Edward," she took my hand, "you did the best you could with what you knew. That's all any parent can do. Joe's choices are his own. Marcus's choices are his own. You gave them both the same foundation. They built different lives on it. I just keep thinking about him in prison, 25 years, what that must be like. Then visit him." I looked at her, surprised. "You haven't seen him since the sentencing. she continued. Haven't written. Haven't tried to contact him at all. Maybe it's time. What if he doesn't want to see me? What if he does? I went to see Joe in November, almost 8 months after his sentencing. The Georgia Diagnostic and Classification Prison in Jackson was a 3-hour drive from Atlanta, long enough to think about turning around 100 times, long enough to rehearse what I'd say and forget it all again. Patricia offered to come with me. I told her no. This was something I needed to do alone. The visiting room was surprisingly normal. Tables and chairs, vending machines, families talking in hushed tones. They brought Joe out 15 minutes after I arrived. He'd lost weight, looked harder somehow. Prison had carved away the softness, leaving something leaner and sharper behind. He sat down across from me without saying anything. "Hi, son," I said. "Surprised you came." His voice was flat, guarded. "I'm your father. Where else would I be?" "I don't know. Living your best retirement, celebrating that Marcus got everything, forgetting I exist. I haven't forgotten you, Joe. I think about you every single day." "Do you?" He leaned back, arms crossed. "What do you think about? How I disappointed you? How I ruined the family name? How you were right about me all along? I think about where I went wrong." That surprised him. I saw it in his eyes. "I think about that meeting when you were 12, I continued. About making a promise to a child who couldn't possibly understand the weight of it, about setting you on a path that led here." "So you do blame yourself." "I blame myself for how I handled things, for enabling your bad behavior because I loved you, for not teaching you consequences early enough. But Joe, I don't blame myself for your choices. Those were yours." "Were they?" His laugh was harsh. "Everything I did was because of what you promised me. Because you dangled this future in front of me and then ripped it away." "No," I said firmly. "Everything you did was because you felt entitled to something you hadn't earned. Because you thought being born first meant you deserved everything. Because you chose shortcuts over hard work, blame over responsibility, and violence over acceptance. So you didn't come here to apologize. You came here to lecture me. I came here to tell you the truth, because everyone else in your life has either lied to you or let you lie to yourself. And look where it got you." The room was silent, except for the hum of fluorescent lights and distant conversations. "I'm sorry," I said quietly. Joe's head snapped up. "I'm sorry I made you a promise I couldn't keep. I'm sorry I didn't prepare you better for reality. I'm sorry I gave you money instead of discipline. I'm sorry I fixed your problems instead of letting you face consequences. I'm sorry for all the ways I failed you as a father." I saw his jaw clench, saw him fighting something inside himself. "But I'm not sorry for giving the company to Marcus. That was the right decision. And I need you to hear this. Even if you hadn't tried to kill me, even if you'd been perfect from that day forward, Marcus still deserved it more. Because he earned it. And until you can understand that, really understand that, you're never going to be free. Even when you get out of here." We sat in silence for a long moment. Then Joe said something I didn't expect. "I'm tired, Dad." His voice cracked on the words. "I'm tired of being angry, tired of blaming everyone, tired of pretending I'm the victim. I'm just tired." "Then stop," I said. "Stop fighting it. Stop trying to justify it. Just accept what happened and move forward." "How? I'm in prison for 25 years. My life is over." "What? Your life isn't over. It's different, harder, but not over. You can still choose who you want to be." "What if I don't know who that is anymore?" "Then figure it out. You've got time." He laughed at that. A real laugh. "Yeah, I've got time." We talked for another hour. Not about business, not about Marcus, not about the trial, about small things, about books he'd been reading, about a class he was taking, business management, ironically, about his cellmate who was teaching him chess. "Like, I'm not good at it yet," Joe admitted, "but it's something to do, something that requires thinking ahead, planning, seeing consequences before they happen." "That's good," I said, "yeah." When visiting hours ended, a guard came to collect him. Joe stood up slowly. "Dad? Yeah, son? Will you come back? Visit again?" The question was small, vulnerable, like the 12-year-old boy I remembered. "If you want me to." "I do." He paused. "I know I don't deserve it, Snide. Don't deserve your forgiveness or your time or anything, but I'd like to try to earn it. If you'll let me." I stood up and pulled him into a hug before the guards could stop me. He tensed, then relaxed, then hugged me back. I love you, Joe, I whispered. I've always loved you, even when you made it hard. Even when you broke my heart, I love you. I love you too, Dad, he said, and his voice broke. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I know, son. I know. That was 3 years ago. I'm 73 now, sitting on my back porch in Alpharetta, watching the sun set over the same yard where I used to watch my boys play. A lot has changed since that day in the prison visiting room. I visit Joe every month. Sometimes we talk for hours. Sometimes we just sit in comfortable silence, playing chess on a board I bought him. He's different now, calmer, more thoughtful, taking responsibility in ways he never did before. He completed his GED. Yes, he'd never actually finished high school. Faked transcripts to get into the community college he flunked out of. Got accepted into a college correspondence program and earned an associate's degree in business. Currently working on his bachelor's. He runs a financial literacy class for other inmates, teaching them how to manage money, how to budget, how to plan for life after prison. Ironic, right? He said to me during one visit, me teaching people how to make good financial decisions. Not ironic, I told him. Growth. That's what growth looks like. Marcus is thriving. Morrison Logistics is now worth 3 times what it was when I handed it over. He's expanded into international shipping, opened offices in Mexico, Canada, and the UK, hired 500 new employees. He and Angela had a baby last year. My granddaughter Emma, beautiful little girl with her grandmother's eyes and her father's serious expression. I get to babysit sometimes. Get to hold her and tell her stories about how her grandfather built something from nothing, how her father carried it forward, how family businesses are about more than money, they're about legacy. She doesn't understand yet, but one day she will. Marcus brings Emma to visit Joe sometimes. The prison has a special program for family visits. 4 hours in a room that almost looks normal, with toys and books and a small kitchen where you can make sandwiches together. The first time Marcus brought Emma, Joe cried. I don't deserve this, he said, holding his niece with hands that shook. No, Marcus agreed. You probably don't, but she deserves to know her uncle, and you deserve a chance to be someone she can be proud of. It's not forgiveness, not yet, maybe not ever, but it's something. A bridge being built one careful board at a time. Patricia and I are good. We travel more now, spend time with friends we neglected for decades. Go to church every Sunday and actually listen to the sermons instead of thinking about work. We talk about Joe, about whether he'll really change, about whether the man who comes out of prison in 17 years will be someone we recognize. Do you think he can be redeemed? Patricia asked me last week. I think, I said carefully, that redemption isn't a destination. It's a direction. And Joe's finally walking in the right direction. That's enough for now. Last month, Joe called me from prison. We're allowed one 15-minute phone call a week. Usually use it on Sundays after dinner. Dad, he said, I need to tell you something. Okay, I've been talking to a therapist here, required for my parole consideration, and we've been working through a lot of stuff, about entitlement, about anger, about the choices I made. That's good, son. Yeah, and I realized something. I spent my whole life thinking I deserved things because of who my father was, because you built this company, because you promised me something, but I never asked myself what I was building, what I was contributing, what I would leave behind. He paused and the answer was nothing. I was building nothing, contributing nothing, just taking, just expecting, just destroying. Joe, let me finish, please. Okay, when I get out, if I get out early for good behavior, I'm not coming back to Morrison Logistics. I'm not asking for money. I'm not asking for anything except a chance to prove I can build something of my own, something that matters, something I earn. My throat got tight, and I wanted you to know that. Wanted you to know I finally understand what you were trying to teach me, that inheritance isn't about money. It's about character, and I'm working on mine. Every day, I'm working on becoming someone my daughter might be proud of one day. You don't have a daughter, I said, confused. Not yet, but I will. When I get out, when I've proven I'm worthy of having a family, and when I do, I'm going to tell her about her grandfather, about how he built an empire from nothing, how he taught his sons about integrity even when one of them refused to listen, how he never gave up on me, even when he should have. I couldn't speak, could barely breathe. I love you, Dad, and I'm going to make you proud. I don't know how yet, don't know what it'll look like, but I'm going to spend the rest of my life trying. You already are, son, I managed to say. You already are. I'm sitting on my porch now, watching the sunset, thinking about everything that's happened, about promises made and broken, about empires built and families fractured, about the difference between giving someone everything and teaching them how to earn it, about justice and mercy and the long, hard road of redemption. People ask me sometimes if I regret it, regret turning Joe in, regret testifying, regret sending my own son to prison, and the answer is complicated. I regret that it came to that. Regret that I didn't see the signs earlier. Regret that I didn't teach him better when he was young. But do I regret stopping him from going down a path that would have destroyed him completely? Do I regret protecting Marcus and the company and everyone who depended on us? Do I regret choosing justice over enabling? No, I don't regret that. The sun is almost gone now. Patricia will call me in for dinner soon. Tomorrow, Marcus and Angela are bringing Emma over. This weekend, I'll drive to Jackson to see Joe. My life looks different than I imagined it would when I started Morrison Logistics 31 years ago. I thought success meant giving my children everything. Turns out, it meant teaching them how to build their own everything. I thought legacy was measured in dollars and buildings and contracts. Turns out, it's measured in character and choices and second chances. I thought family was supposed to be easy, that love meant avoiding pain, that being a good father meant making my children happy. Turns out, being a good father sometimes means letting them face consequences, sometimes means making hard decisions, sometimes means loving them enough to let them fail so they can learn to stand back up. Joe has 17 years left on his sentence. Might get out in 12 if he keeps doing what he's doing. Marcus is building an empire that will last generations. Emma is 1 year old and already curious about everything. Patricia and I are old and tired and still here. And me, I'm finally at peace. Not because everything worked out the way I planned, but because I finally understand that it wasn't supposed to. Life isn't a business plan you execute. It's a story you live through, with plot twists you don't see coming, with characters who surprise you, with endings that feel like beginnings. If you've stayed with me through this whole story, thank you. Really. Thank you for listening to an old man work through his pain. Thank you for not judging. Thank you for understanding that families are complicated and love is messy. And sometimes doing the right thing feels like tearing your own heart out. I read every comment you leave, every story you share about your own families, every word of encouragement and support. We're all just trying to figure this out, trying to balance love and discipline, trying to know when to hold on and when to let go, trying to build something that lasts. And maybe that's the real inheritance I'm leaving behind. Not money, not a company, not even my name on a building, but the understanding that you can't give someone character. You can only create conditions where they might choose to develop it themselves. And that sometimes the greatest act of love is letting someone face the consequences of their choices, even when that someone is your son, even when it breaks your heart, even when you give anything to fix it but know you can't. The porch light just came on. Patricia's silhouette in the doorway. Edward, dinner's ready. Coming, baby. I stand up, bones creaking, and take one last look at the sunset. Tomorrow, the sun will rise again. And I'll keep walking this path. Keep visiting Joe. Keep loving Marcus. Keep building this strange, broken, beautiful life I've been given. That's all any of us can do. Keep walking. Keep loving. Keep hoping that the people we love will find their way home. Even if home looks different than we imagined. Even if the journey takes 25 years. Even if we're not around to see the ending. This is Edward James Morrison, signing off. Thanks for walking this road with me. Drop a comment and tell me what you learned from this story. Tell me about your own families. Tell me where you're watching from. Because we're all in this together. Every broken family. Every hard decision. Every long road to redemption. We're all just doing the best we can. And sometimes that has to be enough. God bless you all.